Welcome, fellow confidence crusaders, neuro nerds, and success equalizers. This is your podcast, Real Confidence. I'm your host, Alyssa DeVere, and I'll be sharing a bit of basic brain science, some surprising social secrets, and a touch of tough love. Why? Because I believe confidence is everyone's fundamental right and choice. So let's get to it. So there's sometimes that we have podcast guests that even before I turn on the record button, I just know it's going to be fun. And this is one of those days. I'm here with Phebe Trotman, a brand new friend. I barely know her at all. So I'm going to start to ask her some basic questions to get us into the groove here. Let us know a little bit more about you. Phebe, you have a fantastic background, and we're going to talk today about never quitting, even when you have a bad day, which is what your book is about. So tell us, how'd you get to that point where that was your thing to do? I mean, wow.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, isn't it interesting how life gives us twists and turns? And first, I want to say a massive thank you so much, Alyssa, for having me here today. I love what you're doing with the podcast. And yeah, the book kind of came out of nowhere. One was I was with some great friends. We were talking about what's next on our entrepreneurial journey. And they're the ones actually who suggested that I write a book. And initially I was a little hesitant, but they flipped it on me and brought up how much it can help people. And that's really something that I'm passionate about. And so I'm so grateful just to have great friends and support. And that's number one lesson for people, is just surround yourself with a great community of people who speak life into you and believe in you and encourage you.
Well, yes, absolutely. But you also were an athlete. And I think, that obviously can teach you a lot about life. So, in hindsight, being an athlete, help, hurt, how did that kind of contribute to the path now?
Being an athlete, I mean, there's so many life skills that I've learned as an athlete that translated so well into the entrepreneur world and just life in general. And so I'm grateful for my athletic journey. I've had incredible highs, and I share this, that even though there's been amazing highs like national championships on different levels and, MVP awards and player of the year awards and all these incredible highlights, the only reason I was able to have some of those successes or all those successes is because of the tough stuff: getting cut from a team, sitting on the bench, playing 5 minutes in a game when I wanted to play 90, losing in a national championship final. So all those tough things that I had to push through is why I was able to get to the highs. And that's where a lot of the growth came from, is from those challenging moments and pushing through. And that's really when I truly believe that's where our greatness and we really grow into the person that we're meant to be.
Well, if you can't see the show notes, Phebe was a world class, I don't even know if that sums it up well enough, soccer player, football player, for those friends of ours that are overseas. And I think it's easy in hindsight, and I think it's even easy as a listener to be like, oh, she's so awesome and she was a champion, what is she complaining about, right? But when you're in those moments of defeat, when you're in those moments of being cut, you know there's the Michael Jordan stories of he didn't make his high school team, and you're like, yeah, whatever, right? So I think there's people out there that are in the middle of some kind of a layoff, or maybe some other kind of personal setback, in a way that it's really hard to see that there's a future. So can you share some of that? If rewind some of your own, traumatic moments, because I think they are traumatic. Like, what do you feel? How do you get through them?
Absolutely. And I've been through a layoff. So I do understand, I empathize with people who are going through that. And one of the things that I did in that moment of being laid off, you feel a roller coaster of emotions. And one thing I always encourage people to do, regardless of where you are right now, is start to paint a vision for what do you want your life to look like? And this is an exercise that I do with a lot of people. And I've done it numerous times over my journey, and it's called your dream day. And I encourage people, get a journal, pen and paper, get somewhere where it's quiet. I also have a workbook that goes through it in deeper levels, but just the general overview is, what does a dream day look like for you? From the moment you open your eyes in the morning to the moment you close them, what do you experience in that dream day? Who do you experience it with? And the key, two important things are: write it in present tense. That's so important. So write it as if you're experiencing it right then and there, and get into the feelings of what it looks like to have that dream day. And the reason I encourage people to do that is because it helps you have something to focus on and something to kind of move forward towards, and it really does pull you, especially when you're having those challenging times. And it's hard when you're in it. I completely understand that. The reason I suggest that though is it does help you reframe, and also gratitude is a huge piece as well too. And not necessarily, I wasn't grateful to be laid off, but I was grateful for the time and having a moment to really focus on what I wanted to look forward to, and so those are two things that I just encourage people is, take some time to figure out that dream day. And even amidst the challenge, what can you be grateful for? Not necessarily what you're going through. Some people are like, I'm grateful for that. That's not my story. I wasn't always grateful for what was happening, but could I find something in that I could be grateful for?
So I have a friend of mine, he always says there's no such thing as lucky. And yet, when you're in that moment of, I was cut from the team, I was cut from the company, I didn't get X, I'm not rich and famous, whatever it is that you feel that you failed at, it's easy to say, I'm just not lucky. Did you ever have those moments where you're like, I'm just not lucky, it's never going to happen?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if I ever had those moments because I've always had this, and my parents were just really big on instilling us in my brother and I that you find something to, hold on to, even when you're going through those challenging times. And so it wasn't a matter of not feeling lucky. I think it was just creating your own luck in some ways. And I believe that you can create your story in terms of moving forward. And even when you're going through those tough times, even being cut was frustrating, of course. It wasn't something that I necessarily wanted to happen, but it happened, and there were a lot of tears in that time when that happened. And, my parents kind of had that, well, what do you want to do now? It comes down to looking in the mirror and what can I control? And I think that's a big piece of that luck, if you will, is, well, what can you control in your situation? Because the situation is going to happen. It's how we react to that situation that's going to give us an outcome. And when I was cut, it was a reaction of, yes, tears, frustration. It's not fair. It's this and that. And then having parents who were like, okay, well, what now? And then it was like, well, I'm going to train so hard and make sure that my skills are where they need to be so that the next experience, the coach is going to want me on the team. And so it's that response that I think we have control over. And then we can determine what happens next and how do we create our own luck, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. I'm along that line too. And I think a lot of times these situations that feel unlucky or feel, um, they just feel like terrible, like setbacks, oftentimes are a way of life redirecting you, right? It's like another door that you need to go find. But if you're closed off to finding that next step, it's hard. You're very lucky, if you will, that you had great parents in terms of kind of reminding you that it wasn't the end of the road, it was just a detour, right?
Love
And I
that.
wonder if people don't have that at home or friends, is there people, tools, things that they should look for to really be that support system? You said find yourself kind of like a group of people, but sometimes that's hard. So is how do you do that if you're feeling like, ugh, I suck, I lost, I'm no good, I don't, this is the end of the road. Like, where do people find that kind of, it's not even inspiration, Phebe, what would you call it? Like,
Well, I call it community or your tribe. Well, one of the things that, we're fortunate the time that we live in where there's a lot of resources out there. There's incredible podcasts like this one where you can get plugged into and listen to wisdom that's going to fuel you and help you. Now, that's one form. So I always encourage people like look for great podcasts, YouTubes, books that you can like dive into, get a highlight stuff. That's one form of education. And then obviously events. Now, I know live events for some people, it's not possible, but if you can get to a live event, that's where you're going to connect with people. And I've made incredible friendships from attending live events by myself. It wasn't always I went with people. Sometimes I just went solo and connected and made friends. And because of, technology, even when people live in other countries, and you can still connect with them. And so I encourage people to look for people that you can connect with, whether you form a mastermind, you can go on Facebook. There's communities there as well. Like just type in like positive, uplifting community and, find something and see what you can give first, because a big part of creating a strong, community, look to give first and naturally you'll receive back. And when I say give, value, encourage people, comment on their posts, cheer them on, and in turn you'll feel uplifted as well.
yeah, I love those ideas. I mean, it does take some self-motivation though, right?
It
We have
does.
to
Yeah.
kind of be like, all right, I'm gonna do something about this. And we talk about agency, self-agency all the time on this podcast, which is if you expect the world to kind of give you a helping hand and dust you off, unfortunately, that's not very realistic. But if you say to yourself, you know what, it sucks, but I'm going to do something about it, right? And I suspect that that's something that has to be learned either on the soccer field or at the home or from some friends. But at the same time, like you said, there's so many resources. So, we're going to take a quick sponsor break and we're going to talk a little bit more about your book, but I want to know kind of like what's your go-to strategy, because it doesn't matter who you are, confidence crusader or not, both of us here, we have bad days, right? So if you don't mind sharing, I'll share a little bit of mine too. Is that all right?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, cool. We'll be right back. Want to level up your confidence, your career, maybe even your coaching? Well, then head over to AmericanConfidenceInstitute.com. E-classes are there as well as our coaching certification program, and you don't need any coaching experience to do it. However, if you are an experienced coach, you can get ICF and SHRM continuing credit. It's fast and easy. If you work in an organization, consider bringing in a kick-ass keynote or a uniquely engaging workshop. We also have team learning programs, and they all apply to both your personal and professional life, which makes them really special. They're great for ERGs, the leaders, the member programming, or really any type of professional learning and development in your organization. So give us a holler at www.AmericanConfidenceInstitute.com. Phebe, people can't see how beautiful your smile is, and I want to say thank you for sharing that with me today. And it's not a bad day because I get to talk to somebody like you, but there's days that I have that are bad for sure. And I have a feeling you do too. So bad day, you wake up, something happens. What do you do? What's your go-to strategy? What's your go-to way of getting through that day, that resilience?
Yeah, so we do have bad days. I mean, we're human beings. Life can be challenging. There's going to be those tough moments. A couple of things that I like to do when I am having a bad moment or day, if you will. Number one, gratitude is so key, and I actually have a reminder in my phone to help me have those moments of kind of. I have an event calendar, so 9:10 p.m. Pacific every single day. It goes off and it says, "I'm so happy and grateful that." And the reason I have that prompt is because before I started having more good days than bad, there were a lot of tough times. And so I put that in there many, many years ago to remind me to just stop, pause, and be like, what can I be grateful for in this moment? And now gratitude's part of my life. I wake up, I find things to be grateful for. When tough stuff happens and I'm having a bad day, I still just pause and go, okay, what can I be grateful for? And it might not be that situation. I might be grateful. I'm grateful I'm alive. It might be as simple yet as important as having that. And so that is one thing that I just encourage people to do, especially when you're going through tough times. Put a calendar reminder so that it just starts to become habitual. It becomes what you do the moment you're having that tough day, you can just reframe for a bit. And gratitude, again, it doesn't minimize what you're going through. It just helps you shift your perspective. And sometimes that's what we need to just take another step forward. So what do you do, Alyssa, though? What do you do when you're having those moments?
Oh, that's funny. Well, you say take a step forward. I was trying to think like my last bad day, and we got a puppy a couple of weeks ago who, of course, had one accident. Actually, I shouldn't say, of course, only has had one accident, but that one accident I wasn't expecting, and I stepped in it and tracked it through my house.
Oh, no.
First thing in the morning, I wasn't even caffeinated. And, so it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, shit. Right?
Yep.
Really.
Yep.
And but you know what? Maybe this is part of getting a little older too. I think, I have this profound respect for comedians who can take a common everyday thing, Jerry Seinfeld and the like, everyday thing and find the humor in it, right? And so literally stop myself from taking another step and be like, this is going to be funny tomorrow, right? Like
that.
when something really is, it's going to be a good story. It's going to be a good joke. It's going to be funny tomorrow. And sometimes I'll even go so far in my head with, I won't remember this in a week. Like it's bad today, but I won't even remember it in a week. Like if you say to me, when was the last bad day? Like you just did, I had a kind of like,
that's good.
Right?
That's good.
So, it is shifting shifting the perspective, like you said, in a way that you can go, and I think both both ways that we do it is a way of saying it's really not that bad. You've lost your perspective, right?
I love that. I love that. I think that's such a great way. And it's funny too, because as you're talking, I'm thinking about some stuff that's happened. I was like, oh yeah, they became great stories. Like people, and you tell it and people love it. The other thing I should mention too that I do is music. Like I have some go-to songs that I'll put on and it just like shifts it, right? And sometimes it's movement, I'll go work out. That's another thing I encourage people to do. So have some go-to songs that you can pop on your playlist when you are in that kind of funk, if you will, that just it makes you think of a great moment, an experience. Maybe it's the lyrics, maybe it's just the sound of it. Get up and just move your body, because that'll help shift it as well in terms of perspective and help give you some energy too.
Yeah, very, very true. The Institute, American Confidence Institute, one of our tools or one of our methods, we call it 3 little things. And it has to be something really that you can get to quickly and easily, like a song. And we use them more often when you really are having a bad day, or say you something just went sideways on you, whatever, and you're just like, oh, right. It's a way of kind of retracking you. Here's a little subtlety about that, Phoebe. Everything you said, plus when you play that song, you've listened to that song before, and you got through whatever it was last time. You're going to get through it again 2 times. You play a little trick on your brain that goes, you know what? This song's here. It's going to play it in the future. I played it in the past. It's all good, right? Like it's just a moment in time is all it is, that situation. So love it. Love it. All right. Let's get to brass tacks here. Your book, the name of your book, Never Quit on a Bad Day, Inspiring Stories of Resilience. Where can people find it? And then if they want to reach out to you and learn more about you, please give them a place to do that.
Absolutely. So the book is available on Amazon. So you can head over there and grab a copy of that. To connect with me, my website URL, very simple because it's the name of the book. So it's just www.neverquitonabadday.com. And you can connect with me over there. And that leads you to whether it's Facebook, Instagram, it's the same thing, Never Quit on a Bad Day. And I will mention this for the listeners. When you go to the website, so neverquitonabadday.com, you can actually get a free chapter from the book. So if you're not ready to take the full leap and go to Amazon and grab it, grab the free chapter, because it's all about belief. And with belief ties to confidence, as we're talking about today too. So I just encourage people to go grab at least the free chapter, because it's a powerful chapter about belief and language and the words that we use to say to ourselves that will help. It'll either help us or hinder us. And hopefully the language we're using is helping us move forward.
Well, language you used today definitely helped me. So thank you from at least me, but I know our listeners are going to really enjoy today. So thank you for your time, your spirit, your smile, and all of the good wisdom that you imparted. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for all you're doing to uplift and inspire and encourage people as well. Keep it up. It's great.
I appreciate it. Thanks. Before we totally wrap up, I want to let you know that full transcripts and show notes for this and other Real Confidence episodes can be found on www.americanconfidenceinstitute.com/podcast. I also want to remind you once again that the best way to get confidence is to give it to others. And you can do it just by liking and sharing this episode on your preferred podcast and social media channels. You can even give me some confidence by noting topics you'd like me to consider for the future. So for now, this is Alyssa DeVere. Thank you for helping to bring more confidence to the world. Master editing done by Ben Weinstein, with original music performed and composed by Jeff Mitchell. Real Confidence is a production of American Confidence Institute. All rights reserved.